pure cinema and montage theories. Obviously.
First article was by Lev Kuleshov, and the key concepts here are cinema specificity, ideology, and internal montage. And montage itself, of course. He breaks down montage into three separate types: the Russian, European, and American. With Russian, he notes that it has the least amount of cuts and setups, usually about 10 to 15 per segment. The European has mid-range, which is about 20 to 30, and American has the most cuts, which is like 100 plus. I'll show you some examples of that in a little bit. He also discusses typage, which is when you have an actor that looks the part of your character but can't actually act. There's some quotes that I wanted to discuss, like, I forgot that. Kuleshov divided the audience into rich and poor, and he tried to show montage and see how people reacted to different demographics. He noticed that it's not really what's on the screen. He noticed that it's not really what's on the screen that matters, it's the people who are watching it. Yes, and then there's a quote here, if you look on your papers, montage, the essence of all art, is inexorably tied to the worldview of the person who has the material in his character. So basically the people who are watching it who are rich reacted to it in a certain way, and people who are watching it who are poor reacted to it in a different way because of their own personal worldview. Also, he noticed that American montage tended to have get the best reactions, elicit the best reactions from the audience emotionally, more so than European and Russian. That's really all I can say about that. And Vertov, who we just saw in Man with the Movie Camera, talks about the cinema eye, and how the camera sees differently than the human eye, and in fact, the camera can control what you see on the screen. So for example, if you're watching a ballet, he makes the example of watching a ballet, and how a person in the audience will their eye will randomly move from a person's foot to a group of people, to a person's face, to a person's hand. Whereas if you're watching a screen, the camera shows you what it wants you to see. It shows you it'll show you the person's foot, or it'll show you it controls exactly where you want your eye to go. He also makes the point that you can create anything through montage. Even the perfect man, you can take the best hands and the best arms, or the best legs, put them all together into one person through montage. First, in live theater is a series of incoherent impressions different for each spectator. Like I said, the example of the ballet, everyone's going to see it a little bit differently because they're all going to be looking at different places at different times. But if you're filming it, everyone's going to see the same thing. You can contrast it. Yeah, you can contrast two different points in the universe during montage. I'll make a point with that later when we actually bring up our montages that we made, because you can literally take two separate points from anywhere, and I think it's Kuleshov that also makes this point. He gives an example of like 4 or 5 different clips that are years apart, and they go together to make a funeral. But Vertov also makes this point. And then there's just a couple of other quotes from Vertov talking about how people are trying to escape from the real, but at the same time they're seeing the real anyway.
All right, Sergei Eisenstein. He formulated theory and practiced dialectical montage. Basically, he broke it down into 2 different montages: epic principle and dramatic principle. The epic montage is a means of unrolling an idea through single shots, and dramatic is montage data that derives from the collision between two shots that are independent of one another. He said that two superimposed shots of the same mass on a two-dimensional plane gives rise to three-dimensional through concept. Basically, we take a shot of like this book from one angle, and then directly after that, at a different angle, gives rise to like three-dimensionality. The conflict between one shot and the shot that follows changes how the viewer understands what they are seeing. We saw clips from The Strike earlier, and this is an example of how two shots of the same object that are shown at different angles are not identical. The association of two shots are identical. The change in material produces not in spatial, but in physiological. This is like the 500 workers of when they're being shot down in the strike. The massacre is intercut with the slaughter of a cow. This produces a very emotional intensification of the scene.
And can I just add that when he talks about the epic principle versus the dramatic principle, for Eisenstein, the epic principle is not particularly interesting. Montage as a means of unrolling an idea is more like continuity editing.
Dulac, he was an avant-garde an avant-garde filmmaker. Avant-garde is basically, it means progress. It's a term used to describe a film that has broken traditions to search out, strictly in the visual and auditorial realm, new emotional chords. A true avant-garde contains the qualities that are capable of advancing film, cinema, toward the cinematic form of the future. Through avant-garde, the camera was able to bring life to objects, just like the, what was the one before?
Berlin. Symphony of the City.
Yeah, just like that. Rails, locomotives, boilers, wheels, pressure gauges, smoke, and tunnels act through images just as characters do. It's a harmony of images that give a film a physiological connection that devalued an actor's performance. In pure cinema, cinematic action must not be limited to the human person, but must extend beyond into the realm of nature and dream. Rene Clair. Three factors in the rhythm of film was the duration of each shot, the alterations of scenes or motifs of action, and the third one is the movement of objects recorded by the lens. Basically, number two was the editing, and the three was the movement within the frame. I kind of like the quote, "Images by my mistress. You are mine, dear illusions of one's mind, this refreshing universe in which I take a bearing on flattering features." It's like if images was like a person, you clearly marry images. The primary duty of the present-day filmmaker is to introduce the greatest number of purely visual themes by a short sort of ruse into a screenplay made to satisfy everybody. I point out that this is probably why, as production majors are forced to create films that have no dialogue. A good film is that which communicates to an audience through images instead of dialogue. Show you this. Whatever.
dream it, see it, paint it.
As the moon
As the
becomes a
moon
fading glow.
becomes a fading glow.
Elusive.
Elusive.
In the shadows of conformity and disorder.
In disorder.
In disorder.
Wild winds.
Wild winds.
Desolate clouds. Melancholy seas.
Tranquil skies. Perfectly carved.
Perfectly carved
Perfectly
with
carved.
such
Tranquil skies.
precision.
Perfectly carved.
With such precision.
With such precision.
This absolute becoming a distant.
A cancer to our disposition. Desires
Desires that inspire.
Desires that
inspire.
inspire.
Bitter
Our
desire.
bitter desire. Our bitter,
Our bitter
desire.
desire. Our bitter desire.
Yes, we have a few daters over there. Young ladies that are out.
Cancer.
A cancer.
A cancer.
A cancer.
A
To our
cancer.
disposition.
A cancer.
A cancer.
A cancer.
A cancer.
To our disposition.
Basically, it's that picture right here. A lot of you probably know about it, although you may or may not know it as the Kuleshov effect. It's when you show the person who has the exact same facial expression and you intercut it with other images. Like as you can see right here, this guy, obviously, if you're looking at it right now, you can tell it's the same picture on the left side, but on the right side, it's different things. But if you're looking at that in a film, you can see how it can be interpreted as, if you could have the same face, it's neutral, but depending on what is around, you interpret it to be a different expression. I wish that there was a way that I could just like show like cover stuff.
I know,
and
I know.
that, but unfortunately we can't. But
So that is the, one of the early experiments which showed supposedly what Eisenstein says, and which is in your book, it's highlighted by the editors, and is, you know, one of his quotes, that the image is not an element, I don't remember the exact quote, but the image is not a montage element, it is a montage cell, right? So what might that mean? That the role of the cell or the shot changes, right, when it's in different configurations, right? And he's using biology as a metaphor. And Kuleshov, in the article that you read, as I said earlier, was criticizing his early theories. So in that article, you may have noticed that he said, well, I said that in the past, but now I don't quite believe it. The acting actually plays a very important role as well. And it's only with a bad actor that it really changes meaning, right? So he's changed his ideas a little bit over the time, according to what the Soviets believed about film in the 30s, which was a little different than what they believed about film in the 20s. But this is the original theory he had, and that's known in film theory, film history, as the Kuleshov effect. The actual footage no longer exists, but it was a very famous Russian actor whose face he used, and then intercut with different scenes, and people apparently thought, oh, he has such a great acting ability, his expression is so subtle, we can see that he's feeling sadness in this shot, we can see that he's feeling grief, we can see that he's hungry, right? But it was just an effect of how the shot was cut together. Any final questions for the presenters? Comments? No? So one of the things, yeah, very good job.